Hi everyone. I wanted to show you one position that I found a few years ago, 3.5 maybe, or maybe more, while analyzing way too deeply one of the lines in, I think, Greenfield Defense. Of course I was analyzing with the engine, right? So I was surprised. For engine it's like fraction of a second to find the best move and the best line for white, but it was like a shock and surprise and like, what is that, when the engine suggested the best line here. So but then I tried to understand with human approach why is that the case, and I understood that I want to share that experience with you today. So what is going on? Let's take a human eye. I will not turn on the engine, it would immediately just show you the answer. I want to show you how a human can get to it in such, well, not complex, but many lines to consider kind of position. So the bishop is hanging on b7, so we have to move it, right? But we have lots of squares available for the bishop. How do we choose one? So first, what one should consider, in my opinion, is the most natural, good-looking move. In this case, for me, of course, it depends on a player, on experience, but for me, bishop g2 seems like the most natural place to go for a bishop. The bishop will not be disturbed. That looks fine. Let's see what happens. White has extra pawn, knight c6 is coming. So bishop b3 could be the only problem, taking and attacking the vital pawn that we need for a win. So what do we do? It seems a4 pawn is hanging, but it's our move, and in open position, I encourage you to consider usually forcing moves first. Forcing active moves that create a threat immediately. Anything quieter than that usually is not good. So knight c6 is the move here. So attacking the rook and the pawn on a5. And so rook has to move. Rook cannot move to b7 because, well, nobody can place like this. It's knight a5 with a win immediately, right? Rook b7 is just natural. So rook has to leave the b file, and then rook b1. We're attacking two unprotected pieces. Our knight is protected. White should be winning. Not so fast. Rook to open file, rook to b1, bishop moves somewhere, and after rook b6, rook e1 check, bishop f1, and bishop c4. Black wins back the piece while keeping the initiative. The position is equal. So what happened here? There was a backrank problem with the bishop on g2. Bishop c4 probably not so good because I don't take the knight, I take the pawn. And you cannot capture it. So, and bishop a2 is a forcing move, for the record. So forcing moves first. So bishop g2 doesn't seem to be working because of backrank problem. If white had a pawn on h3, white would just win here. But that's not the case. White didn't have time to do that. The position was open. In open position, you rarely get the chance to just play h3. So bishop g2 doesn't work. But we can go bishop f3, right? To keep the square on g2 for the king, right? That makes sense. Let's see. Bishop takes b3, knight to c6. Indeed, if black goes rook c8, rook e8, we go rook b1, and bishop a2 now just loses because check, we've got the square. That was our plan, right? So, but bishop c4, but now not rook b6 because we're literally getting checkmated on next move, right? King moves, bishop h3 mate. But we go knight a5 and two pieces are hanging. Black cannot recapture and white has huge advantage, right? So it seems bishop f3, good idea. Not so fast. Bishop on f3 is undefended, so how can black use it? Black goes now rook c8. We go rook b1, right? Otherwise we lose the pawn here. Rook b1, and black goes bishop d5, attacking our bishop. That's the problem. And we don't have time to take the knight on b6, right? So we have to take the bishop and to take the pawn, and now I think there are several ways for black to handle it. For example, rook a8 probably is the easiest. Double attack and rook b5, it's c3. So the queen side disappears, draw is inevitable. Bishop f3 doesn't work. What do we do then? Maybe bishop to a6 makes sense. Bishop to c6 doesn't make sense, but black just takes. We cannot get rid of the rook. So Although bishop to c6, I did not check this move. Maybe black has just f6 intermediate move, kicking the knight. Maybe that's the best. Or maybe takes would work. Takes, rook to b1, and bishop maybe comes back to e6 to control. Because any other move, rook b6, knight d7 would win, but this is not the case. Probably black should hold this one. I will check with the engine later. All right. So bishop a6 maybe, but then the bishop left important diagonal. Bishop takes b3, knight c6, rook e8 only move, rook b1, and now bishop takes over the long diagonal. And we cannot, if we take, it's check. Bishop f1, bishop c4. We've seen this position before in the bishop g2 line. So one might think that, well, what you're going to do, that's a draw. If the pawn is hanging, right, he would take, then this one is hanging, back rank problem, etc., etc. There's still one more move, which is not logical at all at first glance. But now that we've seen the problems of white winning the piece after knight c6, what was the problem? Back rank problem, check. If bishop moves on long diagonal unprotected, there's bishop to d5, and that's pretty much it. We can kill those two birds with one move, bishop to h1. I was like, what? Why would anyone put the bishop on h1? I just showed you the reason. So let's see what happens. If bishop takes b3, probably the best, knight to c6. Now if black tries, if bishop was on f3, remember black bishop plays rook c8, rook b1, bishop d5, attacking that bishop on f3, and white doesn't have time for rook b6. Well, this is not the case. Rook b6, bishop is protected. White wins the piece and the game. So black should go rook e8, and now rook b1, and if black tries the line when the bishop was on g2, for example, bishop a2 takes, check, we don't have bishop f1, but we have king g2, and after bishop d5, f3, well, white's pieces are still not coordinated, right? But piece is a piece. Pawn on a5 is hanging. Eventually, white gets out and wins the game here. So, black goes bishop d5 now, and with bishop on f3, we were forced to take on d5. No, with bishop on f3, the rook was on c8. My apologies, that was the difference. But now rook is on e8. Now knight won't be hanging. So what do? We take the bishop. Well, taking the rook is just, taking the knight is just made, for the record. So bishop takes d5, knight takes d5. In that line with bishop on f3, rook was on c8 and knight was hanging. And this is not the case. We can go rook b5 and white wins a pawn with good winning chances. Best move for black would be knight b4, in my opinion. And after, for example, takes, white has good chances to win. Extra pawn, right? Well, not taking knight a5, it's rook a8 probably, and we still have to go to this rook endgame because there's no other way to unpin for us. For the record, the rook, well, the best place for a rook is behind the pawn, right? If rook was on a1, white would just have had a winning rook endgame. Not immediately, but eventually. If white has rook in front of the pawn, that's a theoretical draw, although not that easy to do. With rook goes to a2 or a3 for black. But rook on the side, it's different kind of endgame, and I'm actually not sure where should black put the rook, in front or behind. The point of having the rook next to the pawn is that rook can protect his pawns on the king side or maybe attack opponent's pawns, and any moment a5 and rook a4 is a threat, so black has to take care of that. So rook is usually well placed, but it is best if it's protecting its own pawns on the king side. It is not the case, so black will have some sort of counterplay. So, but that was not the main idea of this video. The main idea was bishop h1 move. What is that? Bishop h1. Well, I hope I explained to you and you understood what is that, bishop to h1. So, bishop to h1, the only move that leads to big advantage. Everything else is just equality. Bishop to h1. Bishop to c6 was the move I wanted to check. Oh yeah, I was right. f6 is the best. Although the engine says king g7 is also fine. The problem is that bishop takes b3, rook b1, bishop to e6. Well, rook b5 maybe is the move. Yeah, black is having hard time unpinning, so white is still better here. But this isn't checkers. We can attack the knight first. And if when knight moves somewhere, and now apparently taking is good. So bishop c6 also doesn't work. But bishop to h1 gives white big advantage. Only bishop to h1. By the way, on bishop to h1, the engine, I think, was suggesting knight d7 instead of going for a rook endgame. So there's a joke that, well, not a joke, as saying all rook endgames are drawn. Of course, that's not true, but there's a big percentage of truth in that sentence. So if you are one pawn down, well, maybe it's better to aim for a rook endgame. Here it says knight d7 is equally good, but I don't know, that's for engine easy to say. First of all, I can take bishop d5, and with and now if you want to go to a rook endgame, you have to ruin your pawn structure with bishop to e6, which is not good. So, although maybe, no, that's not good. After takes, rook e1, rook b3, I don't take e6 pawn, I take the a5 pawn, and with this pawn on e6, black would have a hard time making a draw. If not, white has healthy extra pawn. I would also add that knight to c6 is pretty good, rook b3, knight a5, and I don't know what is Stockfish's plan to stop the pawn. Usually if you have extra pawn, you should exchange pieces. That's the rule. But rook endgames have very high drawing tendencies, so you might want to avoid those. So it's like one rule contradicts the other, but in this case I think the rook endgame rule beats the not exchanging pieces when you're one pawn down. All right, I hope you liked it. I mean it literally, like it. Share with your friends, subscribe. I'll most likely see you in 1 week. Take care. Goodbye.